You wanted the best, you got the best, the hottest podcast in the world, my weekly mixtape with my man Brian. I'm Don Jamieson, and I'm going to be bringing you on this episode my Ultimate Kiss concert set list, so crank it up.
Welcome to My Weekly Mixtape, a podcast that takes the classic mixtape approach to building a modern playlist. I'm your host, Brian Colburn. From his 14-season run on VH1 Classics, That Metal Show, to sold-out comedy shows, I'm excited to welcome back Pantheon Podcast Network mate and co-host of the Rockstrap podcast, the music encyclopedia known as Don Jamieson. Don, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Brian, thanks for having me back. It's always, usually when you do a podcast and the people like ask, oh, could you prepare? And you're like, I don't, but this is one I look forward to. Like, I know I got to prep and do my homework when I come on this podcast. And, we're going to talk about my gateway band to all heavy music, Kiss. I'm excited.
Well, before we talk about the band, considering how many concerts you've been to over the years, what would you say is the art of a band crafting a perfect set list?
Well, I think it's different, obviously, with Kiss, which is a fun dynamic of it, which is, you don't want to have 5 Paul songs in a row or 5 Gene songs in a row. And it's about getting the right mix of, obviously the original band being, all 4 members eventually singing live. So that's sort of the extra element of putting together the Ultimate Kiss set list is, you got to take that into account. As far as anybody else, it's sort of like coming up with a flow for your album. It's got to tell some kind of story. It doesn't have to be a concept record in any way, but the concert has to flow just like the albums do. Although now we live in a singles driven music scene, but yeah, live, you're trying to mix, and that is the other part is you're trying to mix stuff from the 70s with stuff from the 90s or beyond, more modern stuff. With Kiss, I don't think wasn't anything in the 2000s, so that made it a little easier. Yes, believe it or not, there was nothing from Sonic Boom or Monster. It's a spoiler alert already.
Yeah, spoilers. So then you craft your comedy set lists. Would you consider there to be a challenge in crafting a comedy set list that would be similar to a band crafting a concert set list?
Yeah, but the difference is I always hope mine goes off the rails. Because I like the unexpected. I like sort of walking the tightrope, the danger, and whether or not, what can I create in the moment, or what else can I add on, improvise into an existing bit. Whereas, most bands, they craft a set list and that's it. They stick with it and they play that the whole tour, and maybe they'll switch out a song here or a song there. But for the most part, they stay with that same exact flow. And one of the things that I hated it when I found out, it broke the fourth wall for me, as a young guy, as a Kiss fan, was hearing the rehearsal for Kiss Alive 2 and Paul he's rehearsing those stage raps, and they're exactly the same as they are on the album. And I'm like, I thought that he's just cool up there, just saying, coming off the top of his head with this stuff, but that's all rehearsed as well. So, and some bands do that. Every city, it's the same stage raps in between the same songs. But with comedy, yeah, I like it to go, there should be a method to the madness, but sometimes the madness takes over, and that's okay.
Well, Kiss has 20 studio albums. And tonight, you've already spoiled that you're not doing anything off Sonic Boom or Monster, so let's whittle that down to 18. You still have to take 18 albums worth of Kiss music and whittle it down to a 12-song set list. So even if you were only going to pull 1 song per album, you're leaving 6 off the board there, and that's not counting their soundtracks, compilation tunes, stuff that have been, like singles here and there, B-sides. Given how passionate Kiss fans are around the world, what would you say is the hardest part of narrowing down their entire catalog to this 12-song set list?
I got to tell you, Brian, it was way easier than I thought.
Oh,
It really was. I started, well, okay, so I came up with the first song and it kind of flowed after that. And, obviously there's for a lot of people, I mean, I think a lot of people who are going to listen to this are going to be Kiss geeks like we are. And I think they're going to be the obvious songs that are left off the table. I think people are going to find that refreshing. Like we all know these bands that they've been playing that song for 50 years, and it's kind of like, I don't need to hear it every show. I won't miss it if it's not there. Now, of course, if you have a huge song and, the bands that have, super big songs and they play it live, I get into it, but it wouldn't hurt me if they left it off. So there's definitely some very, very notable exceptions on my list.
well, before we get to Don's picks, if you like what you're hearing on My Weekly Mixtape, you can help me out by either telling a friend about the show, leaving the show a 5-star review wherever you're tuning in, or becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape. There you can find ad-free episodes of the show, chime in on future curation episodes, become a guest curator, and so much more. Once again, that's patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape. Now, Don, you're sitting front row center because it's your concert, so you obviously got the best seats in the house. The lights cut out, and you hear "You Wanted the Best, You Got the Best," the hottest band in the world, Kiss, blaring from the speakers at maximum volume. What song is kicking off your ultimate Kiss concert?
Well, it's got to be obviously a song that they've opened with forever and on many, many tours. They've had other openers, but this is the first Kiss song that I ever heard in my life. This is somehow convincing my mother to go out and buy me Kiss Destroyer, much to her chagrin. She wanted no part of getting me, these guys in makeup and crazy outfits, but I convinced her and I put the needle on the record, and Detroit Rock City just blew my mind out as a 12-year-old or 11-year-old, however old I was at the time. And it's just the quintessential opener. When they've opened with other songs over the years, there's some good ones, but this is the quintessential one. You got to open the show with Detroit Rock City.
Well, I was just going to say, there are some other Kiss concert openers that I think might make a decent argument, if not alone, just for Alive, the opening of Deuce. I feel like that's one of the few songs that you could really say somebody can make a decent argument for, but otherwise, this kind of has to be. It's the album opener on Destroyer. It's also the song that I discovered Kiss with. My parents owned Destroyer, and I think the story is my mom bought it for Beth. My dad stayed for the rest of the album.
Oh, that's great.
But I mean, when it comes to opening up any of the Kiss concerts since Destroyer, I think it's pretty hard to deny Detroit Rock City in any way, shape, or form. I don't honestly think in the last 20 years they opened with anything else. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's been pretty consistent.
Yeah, well, definitely on the end of the road tour, right? This was the opener straight through. So, which lasted about 20 years.
Yeah,
so you
exactly.
might be right. And it's such a dark, it's funny though, because for whatever reason, I didn't pick up when I was young, but it's a dark song, man. It's about, someone drinking and driving and getting high in their car and they crash head on at the end. For whatever reason, that just didn't strike me. When I was a kid, I guess I was just more caught up in the energy of the song and just that feeling of like, yeah, on your way to go see Kiss and play in concert, But then as the years go on, I go, wow, this song's kind of dark.
All right. Well, what do you follow that up with for track 2?
Well, a song that they have also opened up shows with over the years, the title track from the really, really great album, Creatures of the Night.
Yes.
And that is right out of Detroit Rock City into Creatures of the Night. I mean, that is a 1-2 punch. That is, yeah, that's just a smack in the face right there.
You're giving Paul the weight right up front, 2 back-to-back songs, 2 album openers back-to-back, which I really like. My history with this album is actually a funny one because Creatures of the Night was one of those 10 CDs for a penny that I got from Columbia House. And I was all excited. And I opened up my box of 10 CDs and I'm going through them. And all of a sudden I pull out this album cover of Creatures of the Night and they're not wearing the makeup. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And for some reason they pressed a alternate cover with the band sans makeup for CD. And I still have it to this day. And I just think it's an odd set piece in my Kiss catalog because it's not the album cover that everybody knows, the blue tint and just the Creatures of the Night album cover.
Yeah, and it's not that's not a song. I mean, that's not who's on there?
It's Bruce Kulick on this one.
Who wasn't even in the band, right, at the time.
Right. And he didn't even play on the album. Yeah.
Yeah, I forget. He's the only person who didn't play on that album, by the way. There's like 700 guest musicians on that record. But yeah, for whatever reason, there's a couple different versions of that cover, I guess for different parts of the world or whatever. Eddie Trunk would know the story off the top of his head, but unfortunately, I don't have that information. But that album from top to bottom, it's a top 3 Kiss album for me. And there's another song from this album, again, not to get too far ahead, but there is another song off this album I put on the set list.
Oh.
But I could have went with almost anything on this record. I really love Creatures of the Night. So having that one, like I said, having that 1-2 punch at the top of the concert there, as a fan, I'd be going wild.
All right. Well, you've got 2 album openers. Are we going for 3 album openers in a row for track 3?
We are not.
All right.
We're actually taking a hard left turn, courtesy of Gene Simmons, because we got to get Gene singing here now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fits Like a Glove.
Wow. Going deep for track 3.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's such a weirdo Kiss song. You know, just the song structure and, you know, those 2 screams that Gene has in there are really intense. You know, they're sort of the typical, you know, juvenile Gene lyrics. Because when I go through her, it's just like a hot knife through butter, you know. But the song has so much energy to it. They did play this live. You can find those on YouTube. And they played it through the Bruce Kulick years as well. And it's got a great energy to it. It's a little bit different. And like I said, Gene, it really shows off Gene's voice.
This is one of those songs that I don't think they've played it after the 1990 tour. I don't think this ever shows up again. Do you think that this could have worked on the End of the Road tour? Because I don't know, it's a little tough with that final tour. I feel like this has a place in history, so to speak. I just don't know where that stands. And I love the fact that you went with this because of the fact that in the 80s, it was pretty much a staple for them.
Yeah, I think, you know, the problem is for Kiss, not for me, because I would love for them to have that in the set list on the End of the Road. But the problem is, what from that record are you taking out? Are you going to not play Lick It Up? You know, are you not going to play All Hell's Breaking Loose? You know, so I think that's, you know, it's tough. You know, if you can only take one song from that record, it's going to be the big hit, Lick It Up, which is a fine song and it's great live. But like I said, if people have never seen Kiss play this song live, go on YouTube. It's a treat. I mean, it really goes over well live.
And to take it one step further, I'll be sure to embed one of those live versions on the episode page over on myweeklymixtape.com for the mixtapers to check out there. All right, well, now we are up to track 4. We had a little curveball there with Fits Like a Glove. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, so now we're gonna go back, you know, to the heyday, to the early days, and we're gonna shoot it back. Well, you got Paul coming back here for Got to Choose.
Nice.
Hotter Than Hell.
Nice.
I always like this one. This one's got a good bounce to it live. I love the chord structure in it. I love the beginning, the guitar. And the only, you know, I was tempted to put Hotter Than Hell in there. And this is what I would say. I would replace this with the song Hotter Than Hell if they would sing it like they sang it in Kiss Meets the Phantom if they sang it as rip, rip, rip and destroy instead of hot, hot, hotter than hell, then I would replace it. But I always dug this song. And again, I think it's a good live one.
I think it's a great album overall. The one thing that always got me about this album, I felt like, and maybe it's just the recording on it sounds different than any Kiss album in their catalog. It sounds almost like these were kind of like raw demos compared to some of the more polished stuff they did on Dress to Kill. Even some of the stuff from the self-titled album sounded more polished. So this was almost like this raw moment where a band kind of takes their sound and goes in a different direction, like you would think. I would compare it to the way Nirvana went from Nevermind to In Utero, where it's almost a record scratch sound difference, but it's still a ridiculously strong album. Even if you talk about Coming Home, which they opened up their Unplugged show with for MTV, I feel like that's another ridiculously underrated Kiss cut.
Yeah, it is a great one. I think it really it adds to the sort of the darkness of a lot of the songs, the way it's produced, Strange Ways and Parasite, those just sound so raw, hotter than hell. I mean, there is a sort of a darkness to the songs on there. So I agree, but I love the way that, the problem, as people obviously know, the production back then on the first three Kiss albums were not great. But out of the first three, this is my favorite.
Now, I'm knowing that Kiss loves to capitalize on things, however you want to call that. I'm actually shocked they haven't gone the route of doing like what Jethro Tull did with Steven Wilson, doing 50th anniversary remixes, not remasters, but actually remixing it from the ground up. And with, I hate to say it, but with the technology with AI, even if they don't have the original master tapes, they could probably pull it off.
Yeah, Kiss blew the opportunity to do the 50-year anniversary of the first album with a remaster. So, yeah, but as a purist, I don't need that.
Right.
These albums are such a part of the fabric of my being that I couldn't imagine listening to them any other way than the way they are. But yeah, those first three albums, I think, they could definitely use a little upgrade on those. But great songs on there. And then obviously those songs came alive when they put out Kiss Alive.
Yeah.
And then you really heard, the power that those tunes had.
I feel like Kiss Alive did to the first three albums, and I know this is not a heavy comparison by any stretch of the imagination, but what Songs from the Attic did for Billy Joel, it kind of like reintroduced the first three albums to people through the live band's performance and really kind of ignited those first three albums in a way that live albums tended to do back in the 70s, not so much now.
Yeah, well, back then the live album meant something.
Yes.
That was a big thing. That's what put a lot of bands on the map. And, now it's kind of, they're disposable, now more or less. A live album's not going to make or break a band, but back then it was a big deal. And obviously it's very well documented that Kisses were heavily enhanced.
Yes.
And Paul did an interview recently where he kind of defends it, and I'm not really against it, but he sort of said, obviously we brought this our live albums in the studio and enhanced them, but because we really wanted to make sure that people got the concert experience, like you were there. But it is funny listening to Kiss Alive and Kiss Alive 2 and just how over the top the crowds are. One of them is a Super Bowl, literally a Super Bowl crowd. So, but it did. Listening to those as a kid, it was like, wow, it's got to be the most exciting thing on earth to be at a Kiss concert.
It was smart marketing for that. I will say this though, when it comes to live albums, one of my pet peeves is when they run crowd noise like cheers underneath the entire song and it never stops. It's like a bed underneath the live. A lot of artists do this. And as soon as I catch on that that's what's happening, it kind of kills the live album aspect for me, because I've never once in the hundreds of shows I've been to one where everyone screamed the whole time and didn't listen to the fucking songs.
Yeah, exactly. I know it's way over the top. Or the opposite is they mix it down. Like once the singer starts, it like almost cuts out.
Yep.
And you can, no, there's a happy medium here. You let it trail underneath and you fade it gradually. So, it's tough. I mean, obviously, I like albums like Aerosmith, Bootleg,
Live
where you could
bootleg,
tell
yeah.
they did nothing to those songs, for better, for worse, warts and all. That's all out there. But listen, Kiss Alive 1 and 2 for me, those will always be iconic. And I don't care what they did to them in the studio. When I listen to them, I feel good.
I was actually wondering if any of your choices would come from either Alive 1 or 2 tonight, but we'll have to see when we get there. We are now up to track 5. So where do we go from Got to Choose?
Yeah, so we go from Choose to Lose and Nothing to Lose.
Nice.
From the first record, yeah. And because we got a little get a little Peter into the mix here. And that song, again, like I was saying with Detroit Rock City, when I was a kid, I didn't quite get, what was happening in it. I had no idea as a 12-year-old boy that this song, that Kiss had a song about anal sex.
Yes.
And then the minute I found that out, it became one of my favorite Kiss songs of all time, even to this day, because I'm still a 12-year-old kid when I listen to it, and I'm like, yeah, he's talking about anal.
And they were able to skirt around it where it was their debut American single. And to me, that's the way they were able to sneak that out there and not have any label head go, plus the fact that you got Bruce Foster on keys, which was the first time they brought somebody from outside the band in. I have to ask, because the song didn't chart. Looking at the self-titled Kiss album, do you think that was the smart decision to lead with this? Or do you think that maybe they should have went with something like Deuce or Strutter or something else? Do you think this was like a hindsight is 2020 moment for them?
It would have to be, right? Because, like you said, Deuce, became the early days consummate concert opener. Strutter opening the album, just a real solid, compact 3-minute hard rock song with great hooks. Yeah, and because nothing to lose is again, it's sort of like it's an early version of like Fits Like a Glove. It's sort of an oddball fit, but it is the second track on the first album. But yeah, either one of those. I mean, even Firehouse, I would have put out there maybe as a single before that. But yeah, the content wise is why it makes my list.
Well, coming out of that, to close out the first half of your Ultimate Kiss concert set list, what do we have at track 6?
All right, come out of that. Just another straight up banger. I Stole Your Love.
Nice.
That version, obviously, on Alive 2 is just smoking. And, I think you get to that point in the set after Nothing to Lose, which is, again, it's sort of like this bouncy, poppy kind of, vibe to it, bluesy thing. And then you just have a straight ahead Kiss banger and, got to have something here off of Rock and Roll Over. So I Stole Your Love.
Another album opener, another great song. This is one of those ones that I feel like was an instant staple for them. Like there's certain songs that I feel like had a slow burn into the Kiss universe, and there's other songs that just took off like a rocket. I feel like this is one of those ones, especially when you consider the fact that Love Gun was a top 5 album for them.
Yes, so, and I apologize. I said the wrong album. It is off of Love Gun. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about the chart stuff with that. Love Gun is the album famous to me for being Ace Frehley's debut vocal performance. So, but yeah, this is that version, like I said, on Kiss Alive 2 is just amazing.
Do you have a preference if you had to choose between the studio and Alive 2?
The live version for sure.
Awesome. Well, just a reminder, you can hear all the songs on Don's Ultimate Kiss concert set list over on the episode page at myweeklymixtape.com. So now we're at the second half with track 7.
Well, we got to get back to Gene here because, got to get Gene back in the mix, and a great one from the Revenge album and Unholy.
Yes.
I mean, that's as heavy a song as Kiss has right there. You're starting off the second half of this concert with just this really heavy, heavy song. The lyrics, very clever and dark. I love the darkness of the song. I love the solo in this song. Just everything about it.
Vinnie Vincent's still writing at least for this song on the album. He did a couple of things on Revenge. Revenge, to me, I might catch a little flack from Kiss diehards, but it could be a top 3 Kiss album for me. I was in high school when this album came out, so there's like this layer of coming from a childhood Kiss fan into a teenage Kiss fan, and I feel like this album really kind of did that with me when you think of songs like Domino and I Just Wanna, and kind of the hair band scene at the time. Kiss was never really part of the hair band scene, but because when they didn't have makeup on, they kind of got lumped in to the hair metal movement, even though I never considered them hair. I mean, they had long hair, but I never considered them glam. But because of some of the outside writers, they kind of weaved in and out of that sound a little bit. And I feel like this is the album they did it, I don't want to say the best on, but I think it was the perfect mix of that 80s metal sound along with the classic Kiss sound, whereas Crazy Nights and Hot in the Shade leaned a little heavier into the poppier side of Kiss, where this
Very
one
much
started to kind of bring it back a little bit. I feel like it kind of leveled the playing field from a musical perspective.
100% spot on. I was good up till, Asylum I liked a lot. And then Crazy Nights came out and I said, oh no, no, don't do this please, Kiss, don't do this. Everything you said was true. And so and then they follow that up with Hot in the Shade. And I'm like, man, that's 2 not great albums here in a row. I don't like the trend where this sound is going. And then they bang back with Revenge and then go back off the rails with Carnival of Souls. But anyway, Unholy. And, I'm noticing now, obviously it wasn't planned, but a lot of album openers on my playlist, but that is not intentional.
Well, it's 5 right now out of 7 songs. So I have to ask you, what is your favorite Kiss album opening track?
You know it already.
Detroit Rock City.
City.
Had to be. Okay.
Gotta be.
Well, following up on Holy, where do we go for track 8?
All right. So I have a little coda on this one. I'm going to go Hide Your Heart.
Wow.
Oh my God, Don, what are you thinking? Hide Your Heart. You just trashed Hot in the Shade. And here you are picking a song. But here's the caveat, not the coda. Coda's a Led Zeppelin album. The caveat here is that it's Ace's vocal on it, because I love the version of this song on Ace's solo album, Trouble Walking.
Mm-hmm.
His version is so goddamn good. It's got such incredible swagger to it. You picture Ace as the character Johnny in the song, because Ace was always the dangerous guy in the band, and you could see Ace being the guy who's taken the gangster's girlfriend, and, in the end he gets shot on the rooftop. But I don't like Kiss's version very much on Hot in the Shade, but it's a killer song. It's such a well-written song. It tells a story that's interesting, but it's got to be Ace singing it.
Co-written by 2-time My Weekly Mixtape guest Desmond Child, originally recorded by Bonnie Tyler.
She did the first version of this?
In 1988, she did her version of it.
Wow. Okay.
So that's me with that. I knew Bonnie Tyler through my mom, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, I know this. And Hot in the Shade's always been a weird album for me because Forever was that song that truly said, hey, hair bands, We Can Hang With You Guys. I mean, co-written by Michael Bolton. I think Forever was the song that really pissed the most Kiss fans off. I'd say that would be, if there was one song that you would say pissed off Kiss fans more than any other song, I think it would have to be Forever, at least from a singles standpoint.
Yeah, that and Reason to Live.
I don't hate either one of them. I'm not going to lie.
I don't either.
I'm a power ballad fan. I don't hate either of them, but in the scope of the Kiss catalog.
Oh, agreed. Yeah. And, and Desmond co-writer on both of those, right?
Yes.
Because it's got, those songs have his stamp on there. But yeah, so Trouble Walking came out in 89. So you're saying Bonnie Tyler did it in 88?
I have to look this up now because I don't want to get this wrong, but I am 90% sure. Yes, released in 1988 is the second single on the album of the same name.
Yeah. Well, this is a story Eddie Trunk could tell off the top of his head, but the gist of the story, I believe, is that, this song was obviously floating around out there. And I guess Kiss passed on it originally, and Ace jumped on it. And then, Kiss was sort of like kicked themselves like, no, now we're going to show Ace how it's done. But they don't. Because like I said, Ace's version is so great. So that goes into my set list.
So you're putting the Trouble Walking version in.
Yep.
All right. So where do we go from here? Are you gonna drop Forever in just to piss people off or no?
Well, we will get to a ballad, but while Ace's vocal cords are warmed up, we're gonna bang right into Shock Me.
Nice.
Yeah, that's got to be in the set. Obviously it's Ace's debut as a vocalist for Kiss, but it was also always and still is to this day the showcase for his guitar solo. You wouldn't do the 3-minute studio version of this live. You have to do the version with the guitar solo in it. And Ace to this day still generally plays it the way he played it on Kiss Alive 2. He improvises a lot around it, but he plays a lot of the same basic stuff because I think he knows that his fans want to hear that. And I love that he does that. He doesn't just put a different solo in there. Like I said, he improvs a lot around it, but he does all the cool stuff that you hear on Kiss Alive 2.
And that's the reason why the song made Guitar World's 100 greatest guitar solos ever. It's all this sucks, and I'm sorry, you're going to log off when I say it, shock and awe the fans because it was shock value to the song, literally in the song title.
All right, I got to go now. Bye.
Not my favorite Ace song, but I have a reason because I know you do the Rockstrap podcast. My favorite Ace song is New York Groove because I am a New York Giants fan. And that song is the touchdown celebration song at MetLife when the Giants score. So for me, it's a double-sided coin. As much as I love the guitar solo in Shock Me a lot more, New York Groove gets my all-time Ace song just because of my connection with the Giants.
Right, but not even written by Ace.
No, total cover, but still, I know.
Well, I'm a Jets fan, so I don't have to worry about my team scoring.
All right, so what are we coming out of Shock Me with?
Here's the ballad. And the album version's amazing. But where I think it took a new life or it went to a new level was on Kiss Unplugged. Paul just did an unbelievable vocal job on I Still Love You.
Yes.
That vocal on Kiss Unplugged is absolutely epic. And I'm the kind of guy obviously 12 is... They wouldn't just do 12 songs in a concert, but I like when a band does, one of their slower songs or their ballad, because, if you just have one banger after the other the entire time, then you don't get any sort of, there's no levels to anything. So this might even be a little far down on the set list, but the thing I like about it is you could almost if this was a real concert, you could almost end the concert with this song. That's how powerful this song is, even as a ballad. It's got such a killer build to it. Like I said, it's a complete showcase for Paul's vocals. it's that middle part where it gets real heavy is amazing. I love the solo in it. And it ends in an epic way. You could almost close the concert with this song.
It's very bluesy for Kiss. Like, this has got a blues undertone to it, the way he delivers the vocals, the range in which he delivers the vocals. When I watched MTV Unplugged for the first time, I had already known Creatures of the Night for years. And when they started playing that, the first thought in my head as a teenager was, ooh, I wonder if Paul is still going to hit those vocals like he did in the 80s. And when he started singing it, my jaw was on the ground for the rest of the performance, because I honestly think he did it better live on Unplugged than on Creatures of the Night.
Yeah, I don't disagree. That's why I said it went up another level on that album. So yeah, that's got to go in.
And it's 6 minutes long, and it doesn't feel like it. And to have a 6-minute ballad not feel like it's droning because it's a slower song, that's not easy to pull off. And I think they nailed it with this one.
Yeah, because it's just got a lot of ebbs and flows to it. So yeah, you never, it's not just sort of a one level monotone kind of vibe to it. It's, it builds and it comes back down again and it builds. And like I said, that middle section, it gets so heavy, and then, then we land the plane, and then you have this big bombastic ending to it. And, that sort of gets us now into the last two.
Yeah. So are we going to go obvious here? Are we going to go with a crowd favorite? Or are you going to go with something deeper?
I don't know. I think this this next one's a crowd favorite, but it's, for me, it has never gotten played out like, some of the other songs that people are probably already screaming, that are noticeably not on the set list, but, Shout It Out Loud.
Nice.
To me, it has never grown old, like Rock and Roll All Night and Party Every Day. So to me, this is the sort of the more interesting one. And it just really is a great live song. That's what you're there for. Shout it, shout it, shout it out loud. I mean, it's just such a banger, it's such a crowd participation song.
Mm-hmm.
And, I love that sort of almost closing us down there.
Now, earlier we talked about if they remixed some of their first couple of albums. In 2012, they did remix Destroyer with the Resurrected mix. Have you ever heard that version? And I'm curious what you think between the two.
No, I haven't. I do have it, but I'm in the process of moving, so I have to get all my stuff set back up to listen to that. But what's your impression on it?
I'll say this. It's interesting. You hear certain nuances you don't hear in the original. And now, will I say it's better? The original is so ingrained in my DNA because my mom was pregnant with me when the album was out. So, I mean, between that and Fleetwood Mac's Rumors, those albums, I felt like when I first heard them, like I already knew them. And I did because she said, oh, I listened to those albums nonstop when I was pregnant with you. So it's embedded in my DNA, but I didn't hate it. It was definitely a listen where you went, huh? And it gives you like a different perspective on the album and it's enjoyable. I just don't know if I would ever choose it. If I was like gun to head, pick one of the two, I'd usually go with the original, I think.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, so always loved that song, and that was a concert opener for years as well, but I'm putting it down towards the bottom here, and you could easily close out with that if you want to.
Oh, absolutely. But you have one song left now. The closing song of Don Jamieson's ultimate Kiss concert set list. What are we doing here? Are you going to go obvious and rock and roll all night, or?
Absolutely not.
That's what you said in the beginning about the crowd-pleasing songs you could do without. I had a feeling that was a teaser.
Yeah, and no Deuce. You only gave me 12. It was funny when we did that metal show, people would always, chime in about our top fives. And that was the fun thing about doing our top five list is there's no right or wrong answers. It's just your opinion.
Right.
But, we all used to, not just fans, but, we used to get, Chris Jericho or Tom Morello texting us like that night going, how did you not have this one in your top five? And So then our standard answer always became, that would have been number 6. So
Honorable
you
mention. Honorable
only gave
mention.
me 12. So if you gave me 13, I probably would have closed out with Deuce, but I'm closing out because Ace had 2 songs. We got to give Peter his second one. And, this is the Kiss Alive version of Black Diamond
Nice.
to close it out, that has that epic ending with the explosions and everything else. I just saw there was a video floating around on X of them playing that live, I think on Don Kirshner's rock concert, and they do it in the Alive 1 version of it. And it's just so epic. And Peter's voice, I mean, what a soulful, raspy voice he has. And that song just has a ton of energy. And, like I said, the way they do it on Alive, that's hard to follow.
It really is. I mean, it closes out the original Kiss album, and then it closes out side 3 of Kiss Alive, which makes you feel like side 4 was just the encore because of the way they ended Black Diamond on side 3. They could have just said, okay, let's just put a picture on side 4 of the album, be done with it, and probably gotten away with it because it's that killer of a closing song.
Yeah, or we do what they did on Alive 2, which is put 5 studio songs on.
There you go.
And it's funny enough because Rock and Roll All Night, that song was not the legend it became. Obviously, I can't imagine they haven't closed their concerts without Rock and Roll All Night for at least 30 years, probably more, probably 35 years, right? At this point. But it wasn't back then. It wasn't a concert closer. Black Diamond was.
Yep.
So I love it as the closer for mine, and everybody knows the songs that didn't make it. And but when you have 12 picks, you got to make the most of them.
And I do have to say, I like the fact that you chose Deuce for 13 if you were doing an honorable mention, because that's a favorite of mine as well. That's a great song.
Yeah, that could open or close it pretty much. But yeah, that's the dozen right there, the Dirty Dozen.
The Dirty Dozen, the ultimate Kiss concert set list by Don Jamieson, which kicked off with Detroit Rock City from Destroyer, Creatures of the Night from the album of the same name, Fits Like a Glove from Lick It Up, Got to Choose from Hotter Than Hell, Nothing to Lose from Kiss, I Stole Your Love from Love Gun, or as the one Don chose, Alive 2, Unholy from Revenge, Hide Your Heart from Ace's Trouble Walkin' album, Shock Me from Love Gun, as well as the version Don went with from Alive 2 again, I Still Love You from Creatures of the Night, or the version that Don went with from MTV Unplugged, Shout It Out Loud from Destroyer, and Black Diamond from Alive. Head over to myweeklymixtape.com to hear all the songs we've discussed in this concert set list through the playlist embedded on the episode page. Don's latest comedy album, No Sleep Till McSorley's, which we discussed in depth on the Ultimate 80s Metal Playlist episode, is available on all the streaming services, as well as autographed vinyl versions over on experiencevinyl.com. Don, this has been an absolute blast. Thank you for joining me once again on My Weekly Mixtape, man.
Anytime. Can't wait to do it again, brother.
And remember, you can find My Weekly Mixtape on almost all the social media haunts at My Weekly Mixtape. You can also head to myweeklymixtape.com to check out the full catalog of My Weekly Mixtape episodes. And finally, if you like what you're hearing on the show, you can help me out by either telling a friend, leaving the show a 5-star review wherever you're tuning in, or becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape. There you can find ad-free episodes of the show, chime in on upcoming topics, become a guest curator, and so much more. Once again, that's patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape. That's all for this week. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, enjoy the tunes.